Hello, this is Quick Skills, and today I'll be reviewing the LZAKMR Pro Game Box Retro Console found off of Aliexpress. Now, this device does advertise that it can play PS2, PS3, and GameCube games, to name a few, and that is one of the reasons why I purchased this device, because some of the retro consoles in the $50 to $100 range will not run those ROMs. Now, if you have not purchased this device for yourself, go to the description of this video. I'm going to put a link that'll take you to the exact same AliExpress vendor that I purchased this device here from and reviewing here for you today. When you click that link, you're going to have a few options on what you can purchase. You can see here we have the option of buying a 500 gig hard drive with 2 controllers for about $192. We can upgrade that to a 1 terabyte hard drive and keep the 2 controllers. We also have the 2 terabyte hard drive with 2 controllers, and the one that I will be reviewing here today is the 2 terabyte hard drive with 1 controller. Now, when you receive your device, you will see that it is a 3D printed case, and if you've ever dealt with 3D printed material, it is very flimsy, very delicate, and I do not plan to be very rough with this device, so keep that in mind that the case is very fragile. The controller they send you is a very cheap looking USB powered controller. If you do want to upgrade, I do recommend getting a Bluetooth, that way you do not have to be attached to your device. And the power supply cable, the wire that it comes with is very short, so keep that in mind. You may need an extension to have this reach your TV. It does come with a user manual. It is not printed on any type of booklet. You do have to click the links shown there. And we do have an HDMI cable that comes included with this. Now, I was curious to see what was inside my LZAKMR Pro Game Box Retro Console, so I took off the 4 screws shown here in this video. Be careful not to mess with the other 4 screws, because you'll see very soon that is what's holding all the components in place into the case. So as I took off the lid of this box, I was able to see the 2 terabyte hard drive attached here. And I do want to say that if you take off your lid, it is very difficult to put it back on. The screws have to align perfectly, and it took me about 5 minutes to put the screws back on, but we can see all the components for this device are attached there, and we do have our 2 terabyte hard drive as advertised from AliExpress. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin the review of the LZAKMR Pro Game Box Retro Console. Here we have our retro console on the screen, and as you can see, there's 82,000 ROMs saved on this device. There are a ton of emulators to choose from. I'm just scrolling through the list here. I do want to mention that I will be playing some of these ROMs for you today. I want to test out some of the notable systems such as PS2, PS3, and GameCube, but let's scroll through all the emulators before we do that, just so you can get a taste of what's saved on this device. I do want to mention that this interface does have a few graphical errors on it, and you'll see coming up there are right past the PS3, it just gets real black here. You really can't see the J2ME, I don't know what that means, Steam or LCD games. There is a way to customize this device. All you have to do is push start on your controller, and you can see here under user interface, you do have different themes to choose from. And I left everything by default just so you could see what it's going to look like when you get it. I also want to mention that if you do connect this to the internet, do not update your device. It is recommended by the builder of this device to not update it, because it will cause your device to no longer work. So if you do update your Batocera build, it may cause the games to no longer work. So keep that in mind. And so let's go ahead and go to some of the consoles that I know that you're probably interested in seeing if they work. The first console we're going to test today is the Nintendo GameCube. You can see it says it has 184 GameCube games saved on this device. What we're going to do is I'm just going to scroll through the list real quick so you can see the games that are saved on here. I know it goes pretty quick, so if you do have a particular GameCube game that you want to see is saved on here, let me know and I'll go ahead and check it out. The first game we're going to test today is going to be Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. I like testing Tony Hawk games because you can get right into the game pretty quickly, and usually the default control scheme is pretty easy and notable the topmost button being grind, the bottommost button being jump. So it's usually the same for every console. I want to mention that saving the game is just as easy as saving it within the game. The next time you load up the game, it will remember whatever you saved. You do not have to use any back-end or external save methods. It will save your progress just as if you owned the GameCube with a memory card at home. So here we have Tony Hawk loaded up on the screen. I do have the sound turned up on it, but I do want to mention that I have the in-game music turned off, so that way there are no concerns with copyright infringement. I also want to mention that the control schemes for this Tony Hawk game are taking me a little bit longer to learn because they're not in the usual positions. So if I want to grind, I have to hit X, not Y, and jump is not the lowest most button. Now, if you remember the GameCube controller, it is kind of a funky shaped controller, so I'm attributing it more to the shape of the controller. Once you learn the button configuration, it is pretty easy. And I have not messed enough with this device to see if I can map the controller exactly the way I want it on this GameCube device, but I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a way that you can customize the controls. But as you can see here, I have gotten a little bit used to the controls, and that was an in-game freeze. I don't know if that's going to be commonplace playing GameCube, but here's another freeze. I don't know what's causing the game to slow down, but we do have a little bit of stuttering here, and that is something that you should know. If you are looking to play GameCube games, you might encounter that, and I'm glad I caught that because it seems like if you just wait a couple of seconds, it fixes the problem, but this is something that is affecting my experience of the game. All right, we have everyone's favorite Super Smash Bros. Melee for the GameCube. This is my favorite version of Super Smash Bros., but I know there's probably various different opinions on which one is the best. Seeing if we have any issues like we had with Tony Hawk Pro Skater, we're going to play this home match and see if we have any issues. We had a little bit of a stutter right there. Controls are kind of where I would expect them to be, so you can see I'm dashing with Mario using my bubble shield. The GameCube did have a very unique style controller, so if you're not using a GameCube controller, I would imagine it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. But other than that one little bit of frame rate drop, I haven't had any issues. You can see we just took out Kirby. And if you want to have multiple controllers connected to there are 4 USB spots, so you can play Super Smash Bros. With 4 people. I will say that in playing this game, since I'm not using a GameCube controller, it does feel like I'm emulating this device. I'm not playing like a carbon copy, but I do want to say that the experience is very unique. It does feel like I am playing the GameCube version of the game, but when you're sitting there at home playing it, you might get the sense that it is emulated and not perfect port of the game. So I think we've tested this game out pretty good. There hasn't been any frame rate issues except for that one stutter right at the beginning of playing it. I was hopeful because Tony Hawk froze on me, and I'm not sure if that's going to be just that game or all GameCube games. But let's move on to another game. Here we have Super Monkey Ball. I'm going to turn up the sound just a little bit so you can hear it, but I just wanted to mention that we'll keep it muted just in case there's copyrighted music. So here we go. This is World 1, Level 1. And this is probably the easiest Monkey Ball level there is. I am testing a couple of GameCube games because we had that stutter on Tony Hawk Pro Skater. We'll keep the volume muted. Now I just want to show you that it works. I've had some feedback where people want to hear the sound, and I can tell you back at home that even without the sound is coming in fine for me. I just don't want to have any issues where one, really can't tell how loud the game is coming through or if you can hear my voice clearly enough, and two, I don't know if any of the music is copyrighted, so we'll keep it muted. I'm just checking to see if we get any more freezes. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 did have a freeze, and just want to see if Monkey Ball has any issues. So far, Super Smash Bros. Melee and Super Monkey Ball 2 have looked very good. Let's move on to another game. Okay, we have Simpsons Hit and Run loaded up on the screen now. I did play this game a few times before recording this video, but I just wanted to show this game in action. You can see I've already upgraded Homer. He's wearing his muumuu, one of my favorite outfits. I didn't have any bad experiences with this game. It worked exactly the way I remembered it, but I just wanted to showcase it off for you here. And if you've never played Simpsons Hit and Run, this is such a good open world game to play, and I do recommend that you try it out for yourself. So you can see we are now in this car, and you can just kind of, I mean, there are missions that you can do, but you can just kind of explore Springfield in this game and just do whatever you want. And it's a lot of fun. But just checking to see if we have any other issues. If we didn't have that issue with Tony Hawk freezing, I would have probably tested maybe one or two games. But I want to show you here that looks like Super Smash Brothers, Super Monkey Ball 2, and Simpsons Hit and Run are functioning well enough to where it's not affecting the quality of the game. I will say that when you play these games, you are going to have that sense that you are emulating it. It's just not the GameCube, but the experience is very close. And I am noticing a little bit of frame rate drop with driving around here, but I would say that it is tolerable, but it is noticeable. So keep that in mind. But otherwise, I really enjoy this game. Playing it on this device, I've probably gotten maybe 1 hour of game time on this exact game. Let's go ahead and move on to another game and another console. So here we have the Wii. It only has 18 games. Let's see if there's one we want to try out. I think the easiest one to try out on the Wii is going to be the Super Mario Bros. Wii. So here is Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo Wii. Just loaded up the first game. Just a reminder, I have the sound muted because I want to make sure that I don't have any copyright infringements. And I think there's only 18 Wii games in here, but remember the Wii had its own special remote that used like an infrared light. And I think it might just be limited to games that are solely controller based, I'm hoping. But I figured that this Mario game would be the easiest one to test and show you that it works. And because this is a little bit of an older, well, it's actually newer than the Nintendo GameCube, but the graphical limitations of the Wii weren't really all that notable. I feel like we're going to have an easy time emulating the Wii. So let's move on to another console. We're not going to test the Wii U, but it shows only 2 games here, and we have Breath of the Wild and Mario Kart 8. And if we go under Nintendo Switch, we have 22 games here. Let's see what comes included under Nintendo Switch. If we go through here, we can see there are quite a few games. I don't see Breath of the Wild. I don't see Mario Kart 8. So if you are interested in playing those games, you can check them out on the Nintendo Wii U. But let's jump into the Switch and see what we can play. So Super Mario Bros. Wonder is one of the newer Switch games, so let's try that one out. So we did load up Super Mario Bros., and all you have to do is hit L and R. There's no special configuration of the controller needed. It automatically detected my controller. And so we're going to jump right into a game. So this is a ROM of Super Mario Wonder for the Nintendo Switch. I do have the sound muted, but on my end, I can hear the sound just fine. I do want to mention that as I play this, I am seeing a little bit of a frame rate issue. Seems to be a common trend. And I've never played this game before, so I'm kind of experiencing it for the first time. So this is Super Mario Bros. Wonder for the Nintendo Switch. All right, we are on the first level of Super Mario Wonder. I do want to mention that the frame rate dropping is kind of noticeable. You saw there was a little bit of a freeze. It does seem to affect the overall performance of the game and experience of the game when it freezes like that. So we'll see if we get any more freezes. Oh, there's another one. And it exited out of the game actually. So As far as Nintendo Switch games, I don't know that I want to spend a lot of time testing these out, because if that's the experience with the first one, and Mario games like that tend to be a little easier to play. All right, here is Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch. So I don't seem to be having any issues with the actual game running. I don't see any frame rate issues, but I don't know if this is a control issue or a user issue. But when I use the left joystick to walk around, the camera kind of doesn't follow around the way I would expect it to. And when I use the right joystick to try to fix the camera, it's set to controls, so it kind of like makes Mario jump or duck. And so, again, I don't know if this is just a control scheme issue, but the game seems to be working perfectly if I can just see what I'm doing. And so, would need to spend some time figuring out what's going on with the control scheme, but I do want to show you this is my experience playing Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch. So I was getting ready to call it a video, but let's see if we can test a few more devices. I do want to mention that I did have that black screen happen before recording this video. I was going to make mention of it at the end of the video, but since it did happen while recording, I felt it was appropriate now to show you what that looks like. It's hard to replicate that type of error. When it first happened, I contacted the store on Aliexpress, expressed what was happening to them or to the device, and they mentioned to unscrew the case and check the connections for the hard drive. And so I unplugged the hard drive and plugged it right back in, and it worked. So I thought maybe the wire had gotten loose in shipping. Maybe there was an issue with that. The case is very flimsy. It is a 3D printed case, and the components are very secure in there, but maybe I thought in shipping it got damaged a little bit or jiggled a little bit. So I took off the case, checked the supply wires for the external hard drive, or the built-in hard drive, and then powered it back on with no issue. So I was going to make mention of that at the end of the video, but since we caught it on video here, I'm able to tell you how to troubleshoot it. And so that was basically the loading screen for this device. I didn't cut or trim that down. Let's get out of Nintendo. Let's go into PS2. PS2 has 189 games. So I would imagine that PlayStation games are going to work great. PlayStation games work great on the $50 to $100 retro console. So we're just going to jump into PS2 and see what that experience looks like. So to start off, let's scroll through this list and see what those 182 games look like. And I know it goes through very quickly, but I'm going to kind of speed it up and slow it down. If there is a particular game that you want to see is on here before you play it or test it or buy it for yourself, just leave me a comment in this video and I'll check and see if it's on there. So we're in the PS2 category for the ZAKMR Retro Console found off of Aliexpress. Now, we went through the whole list. Let's see if there's a game we want to try out. Let's load up Kingdom Hearts for the PS2. Oh, wow. And so I was loading up Kingdom Hearts for the PS2 and I lost signal again. Oh, so now I'm wondering if that has anything to do with my HDMI wire. Let me switch it out real quick. Okay, so we're back into PS2 now for the ZAKMR Pro Game Retro Console. It has 183 games. I did just test Kingdom Hearts. I was in the middle of a cut screen and the game just froze and it exited out. I didn't get to test it out or try it out. Let's go ahead and test out God of War 2. All right, so we are playing God of War 2 on the PS2 for the ZAKMR Pro Game Retro Console. And the game seems to be working fine. I do want to mention this far into the video that I have had a few games that just stutter, freeze, and honestly, I wanted to play Kingdom Hearts, but the game froze and forced me out in the middle of playing it. So just want to say, partway through this review, proceed with caution. For $200, if you're just looking at it to get the ROMs and do what you will with the ROMs, I would say there's better options out there. There are 12 terabyte hard drives you can connect directly to your PC and use your PC to run the games and have 12 terabytes worth of ROMs at your disposal. So don't purchase this just for the ROMs. I think for $200, you better get a lot of value out of the actual computer itself. And so far, I just not really in love with this product. We're going to jump into PS3 now. PS3 has 7 games. Very small list of games here. We're going to jump into Dragon Ball Z. Well, what a way to end the video. I booted up a PS3 game and it did go to a black screen. So you can see the Elgato screen. I've been staring at this for a few minutes now. I don't think we're going to come back on with this game. I want to say what's funny is I've played this device for my own, just experience of running it and games I wanted to play. Oh, wait, we got Dragon Ball to load up. All right, so we have a PS3 game loaded up. It's Dragon Ball Z Burst Limit. We're jumping into a match to see if there's any frame rate issue or anything going on. There was only 7 games in this category, so if you're not into any of those games, you may not get any value out of the PS3. I do want to end this video on this game. Hopefully we can play through this game while I go through this final thoughts. I want to mention that I have played with this device for hours prior to recording this video. I always want to go through and test out different emulators and figure out if there's little things that you can do to improve the performance. And I just found the overall experience not really worth it for me. For $200, there's 2 terabytes worth of ROMs on here, which is nice, but if you want a bigger collection of ROMs for $200, you can get a 12 terabyte hard drive that connects directly to your PC. Now, of course, you're using your PC to power the games. I do feel that you have a PC that was built in the last 5 years, you're going to have a way better experience than playing with this device. And I know for $200 to have a retro console that can run these things is actually not a bad deal. But overall, my experience with the case feeling very flimsy and cheap, 3D printed material, and the experience of getting booted out of games under GameCube, under Switch, under PS2, it just seems unreliable on the games that I would really want to play. And I did spend some time playing some of the older consoles like Nintendo 64, Dreamcast. I didn't show any of them in the video because, quite honestly, I expect those to work. The reason why I'm paying an extra $100 to $150 for this device is to play Dreamcast, PS2, PS3, and Nintendo GameCube games. And so I would say proceed with caution with this product. It does do what it advertises, but there's going to be a lot of troubleshooting that you're going to need to do. And also, I want to mention that the vendor on Aliexpress was quite helpful. They did give me some advice on how to fix, a black screen that I was getting here in this video. But overall, I would tell you again, proceed with caution. It is giving you what it advertises to an extent, but the games themselves are unreliable. I find myself having to restart the device, and the games freeze up or boot me out back to the menu. And it just gives me the sensation that I don't want to get invested in any kind of game because you don't know if you're going to be able to finish the game, if that makes any sense. And so with that unreliable, with it being so unreliable, I just can't get that out of my head. And also when you do play some of the games, and actually the PS3 is running really well. I'm really impressed with how this game is performing for a PS3 game. But for the GameCube, I noticed some frame rate issues. Switch, I noticed some frame rate issues, and it does affect the playability of the game. While most of it was tolerable, there were a few instances where the game was not tolerable, like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, for instance. And so we're going to end the video on that note. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. You have a good day.